Back on our TTO program this morning, we welcome in Rebecca now. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Nolan.
How are you? I'm good.
I get to represent Adams County Development Corporation again this morning.
There you go.
So thank you for your time.
You bet. And as we'll kind of summarize, there is actually a meeting tomorrow
10:30.
at 10:30. This will be at the Armory.
I don't know if it's probably
It
at
says
the
the
Armory.
Hettinger City Council conference room, so that would be at the Armory.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're going to be discussing the purchase of the KMM building by the Connection Church. And there was a meeting the other night that was
last
open through
Wednesday.
Zoom. People were able to stand in there. I guess kind of let me know what we're going to chat about it this morning.
So this morning I kind of wanted to give a brief overview of how the meeting last Wednesday went. I apologize for those of you who were on Zoom that I accidentally booted out. I wasn't sure if it was going into executive
Yeah,
session.
I was cussing up a storm
Which
for
it
about
didn't.
20
Apologies,
minutes.
Nolan.
No,
I got your
No.
angry text messages.
oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, no, I'm just going to stay on. And all of a sudden, poof, I'm like, hey.
Yeah, so there wasn't an executive session called, so
Yeah.
by the time I turned around, the room was still full of
No.
people, and I was
You know,
like,
the
oh no.
strange thing, I survived that night. So I think I forgot about it after 2 minutes. And
No,
said,
okay,
I'll
good.
figure out what goes on later on, yeah. So,
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get on here and say too. Like, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to call your city reps. Stop
Yep.
in at the community promotions office and chat with me about how that meeting went. Basically, Mayor Lindquist came in, and Michelle Gaylord, Councilwoman Michelle Gaylord, is on the ACDC board as well. So both of them were present at the meeting, and the city was basically just coming to the Adams County Development Corporation board to talk a bit about if they were to purchase it, how could ACDC support them in the purchase of that building, as well as create a
Yep.
public forum for Connection Church and the public to discuss their thoughts on the building.
okay.
One of the other points of interest maybe that I wanted to talk with you about this morning is a bit of the history of the KMM building
Yeah.
on Main Street. I
And
know
this
there's
goes
been some
back
confusion
A
back to
ways. 20,
before 99 even.
yeah, I was going to say 24, 25 years.
They must have been having discussions between the city and Hettinger and KMM probably in 98, 99 before this project went forward. So a bit of the history is, you might know, Nolan, there were some buildings in that lot that caught fire maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I think like the city cafe, co-op maybe, grocery store. And so those buildings had burnt down. So the city had kind of these empty lots, and then KMM came in with this proposal. Now these empty lots at the time, due to the fire, I'm assuming, were assumed by West River Insurance Agency. And looking at the history of the documents between, or that happened at that time, between the city and the insurance agency as well as KMM, it looks like the West River Insurance Agency donated those 4 commercial lots plus like 20 some feet
Oh, okay.
to the city of Hettinger. And so the city of Hettinger went out with Bob Kuderna, who I got to chat with about this project, and received a $500,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. So the intention was to build a 10,000 square foot light industrial building in those lots. So during the lease that was signed between the city of Hettinger and KMM in 2000 stated that the city of Hettinger would put up like $350,000 for this building and the equipment that would go into it. And the incentive for KMM was that they would receive the equipment upon assumal of the lease. So once they got into the building and started operating, and that they would pay a reduced kind of in lieu of real estate taxes, just a fee. So just for everyone's information, KMM over those 20 years paid $1,850 per month. That comes out to about $444,000 over 20 years. And then their property taxes at that time, for the first 5 years, there was nothing. Years 6 through 10, it was $3,000 per year plus land taxes, which were estimated to be about $525 a year.
Okay.
Probably increased over time. And then years 11 through 15 was $4,500 a month plus land taxes. And those last 5 years was $6,000, or not per month, per year, excuse me. And then those last 5 years were $6,000 per year plus land taxes. So there is money that KMM paid in, but what the city of Hettinger had to provide, that $350,000 I mentioned, they went out and took out a loan of $400,000 to meet their end of the agreement. So the city of Hettinger did pay $400,000 in loan, but received about $500,000, more than $500,000 in rent and property taxes over
Oh,
those
okay.
20 years. So kind of a wash given inflation,
Yeah.
in my opinion, personal opinion.
Yeah.
Over those, with inflation and the amount of effort it took between the city and ACDC to put that out, I think it was kind of a wash with the building. But when you really think about it, it was the employment over those 20 years
Yes.
that KMM provided and brought to the city of Hettinger.
There's a lot of locals that worked there for quite a few years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that's one of the main points of consideration for this building by the city of Hettinger, is because there was so much financial investment to get KMM into the city. So at that time, when they wrote the lease and then the purchase agreement, that the intention that KMM would buy this building after 20 years, the purchase price was $1,450. That
And that's what they bought it. Ended up.
that was the final.
Okay.
So they paid the rent for 20 years,
Yep.
and then they had the right, and they exercised it immediately to buy the building for $1,500.
Smart.
Yep. And
So
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to add that I think that taking that into consideration is why this right of first refusal clause is in multiple contracts between
Right.
the two entities. And why it was important for the city of Hettinger to include it at that time, and why it's important today that they are discussing on what
Right.
to do moving
Exactly.
forward.
Yeah, because you could have get into it. I mean, we're in a situation now. They're discussing it, whichever. I won't get too deep into that. But you could have had somebody come in and bulldoze it.
Yes.
I mean, so that was the nice thing that city has going. What are your intentions bringing in? So they have the right of, as you said, the right of refusal, and they want to see somebody get in there that's going to use the building and keep it up and running. And
Yeah,
take care of it.
I mean, anyone getting in would hopefully keep it up
Yeah.
and running. I think the debate right now is whether they want to intervene between the Connection Church purchasing it and KMM, or whether they'd like to try to support bringing in another manufacturing business, or maybe something retail, something that would generate more of those property taxes, sales
Yeah.
taxes, and employment.
So has there been any discussion on, and this might be at the meeting tomorrow, is there any discussion of the purchase going through soon, or has it been put on the back burner saying we're going to look at other options first before the building is purchased, or that's
So-
something that'll be at the meeting tomorrow?
Time frame, the city has, according to the contracts, 30 days as soon from when they receive written notice that the purchase agreement has been agreed upon by KMM. And that deadline is December 6th. So that's why this special meeting is called tomorrow, to make that decision. And then
Okay.
I assume regular steps for the purchase of a commercial property would go forward.
Okay. So there's no, I heard through the grapevine there's an 18-month thing here that maybe I heard from somebody that you don't know nothing about it? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I can maybe explain that. So that was one of the points of discussion at the Adams County Development Corporation meeting on Wednesday night, is the city will ultimately decide the stipulations if they choose
gotcha.
to exercise their right. So they could say, hey, ACDC, with your support, we have 18 months, we have 12 months to put a business in here. Otherwise, we're going to do something like we'll just sell it to Connection Church, or
Oh, I got it. Okay, that's
put it
where
back
came
on the
from.
market or something
Okay.
like that. So that's that time frame, is the city will decide on how long they want to hold the property, because as Mayor Lindquist mentioned, the city doesn't like owning property.
Right. Yeah.
And they might set a stipulation, something like must employ X amount of people to
Right.
make it worth it.
So is there anything in the contract that says the city has the right of refusal? Can they refuse it like 6 people that come in and try to or is it just like a one-time?
So the contract gives them the right of, so once KMM purchased the building, the city had 10 years that right of refusal would exist.
Right.
So if KMM had operated another 8 years, the city wouldn't even have that right of first refusal, because there was
Oh,
a 10-year
gotcha.
10-year limit put on it. But right now they do have it if there is multiple, a bidding war, for example. I don't know how that would work out, what KMM would then present to the city as the purchase agreement that they agreed on. Ultimately, I'm sure the highest bid, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, kind
Okay.
of exciting. And I just kind of hope to clarify some of that. I know there's been confusion about whether that was the building that got sold for $1. That's in fact actually the Great Plains building, and that was a deal between KMM and ACDC,
Okay.
and KMM
So it
still
wasn't
operating.
the new KMM building, not new, I guess, but the newer one. The dollar purchase was the old West Plains building.
Yeah, West Plains.
Okay.
Yes, and that one was a 15-year contract between
Okay.
ACDC and KMM. But they,
Okay.
I believe, still work out of that space, a couple employees.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see there's people around there every once in a while, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're still kind of have the roots still here in Hettinger, KMM
Yeah.
does, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night's the meeting, is
Oh,
it
tomorrow morning,
tomorrow morning?
10:30.
And
yeah.
is that open to the public?
Yes, I believe so, but I believe they're hoping to, so they've received all this information, and I believe they're hoping to make a decision pretty quick at the meeting.
Okay. So it could be a 5-minute meeting.
Could be a 5-minute meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So don't come 30 miles and
I mean,
you
definitely
can,
call
I guess.
in, whatever.
Yeah. Is it
Show
on
your
Zoom
pretty
or is this
faces.
just
I believe you can call in, and it's just in person there. I don't believe there's Zoom accessibility.
No. No. So, okay. Have to show up to see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's pretty
sounds good.
exciting, and
Yeah. Well,
Time
yeah,
for
it's
Hettinger.
definitely exciting for the town of Hettinger that there's interest in the building,
yep.
and hopefully they come up with something that's that'll work for the town.
Yes.
So,
No, thank you. And if anyone has any questions, like I said, call your city reps, stop into the community promotions office, and we can chat.
okay.
Thank you, Noel.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, there you go, Rebecca, over representing ACDC.